more concerning to me personally is the fact that both Pfizer and AstraZeneca would not allow their products to be sold in Australia unless the Australian government gave them a full indemnity that if they killed anyone or maimed them, they wouldn't be responsible, the government would be. So I find that a very disturbing thing, that the government didn't take the view and say, well, if you're confident in your product, you should stand behind it.
Good evening. Within hours, Sydney will be in the grip of much tougher restrictions. The Premier clamping down on the stubborn Delta outbreak with what she's calling a no-regrets policy. And this is why. From a record 82,000 tests, the state today recorded 111 cases and tragically the third COVID death in this outbreak, a man aged in his 80s from the city's southeast. Across Greater Sydney, retail shops will now close. A small list of essential stores can remain open. Construction sites across the city shut down. And from midnight tonight, 110 suburbs across Liverpool, Fairfield and Canterbury Bankstown will be sealed shut. That's 900,000 residents who can't leave their area, even for work.
Extra powers for work sites, but we keep getting told households the big problem. Are you going to be going suburb to suburb, street to street, door to door, knocking on these and actively looking for people who are in the wrong house and finding them on the spot?
Yeah, look, absolutely. Overnight we conducted hundreds of checks, particularly of those who were close contacts or who have the virus. Thankfully, everyone was home as they were supposed to be on health advice. We'll continue to do that. We know home-to-home transmission is a huge issue for us. We know that people are bringing it home from work sites that aren't complying with health orders. So if you think about the powers that I've asked for, it will take it to those businesses that are breaching the health orders, and it will take it back to the homes that are continuing to breach the health orders that are putting us into an extended lockdown.
Cops here, Mike. Full.
Yeah, just a friendly chat, that's all. So are you aware of any planned protests or events
No.
that are coming up, Jeff?
Nope.
No? Okay. Are you aware of any communication circling around between people about the planned any protests coming up?
No.
No? Do you use any platform at all or to communicate?
No.
Have you gone to any protests in the past?
No, I'm not going to answer that.
You haven't?
You guys wouldn't be here otherwise.
Yeah. Alright.
I'd like to know how you got this address, actually.
Okay. Anything else you like to tell us that might help ensure the public safety?
No, it's all good. As long as you guys aren't running around shooting people with rubber bullets like down in Victoria, we're all good.
That's also another reason why, like, they're concerned with what's happening down in Victoria, that it doesn't then escalate and come up.
Yeah, of course.
So,
yeah.
you know, just making sure your safety, our safety, everyone else's
Yeah,
safety. So,
all good.
you've got nothing, you're happy.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Alright, man.
All right, guys.
Have a good night.
See you
Take
later.
care.
Bye-bye.
What's known as a Section 62 from the Health Act.
Been isolating this whole time, mate.
Were you at Rhodes or Parramatta or anything?
Never.
What do you think of people applauding in the background that you've been caught?
Got that cage door.
Open the door for us, brother.
I have proof that I've been
preparing to have your officers check people's phones for proof of vaccination like you have been checking for proof of ID?
Yeah, absolutely. But if that's the way the Premier and Cabinet crisis go in relation to changes in relation to the 80%, then we will certainly be right behind that.
Okay.
You know, we are supportive of reducing any restrictions, you know, if that means people can get back to living their lives as normally as possible.
Media! 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 Media!
And frankly, seriously, I'm making a serious point. I don't know what half of them were protesting against. Well,
a lot of them.
Then, well, good on them. Except it's illegal.
My comments on our situation, not relative to any other country, we've always said this is the year of the vaccine. In 3 days, we've delivered almost 100,000 doses. We're ramping up as we expected with the biggest delivery in July that we've had. And we are eternally grateful for the job vaccinators are doing with what will be the biggest and most historic vaccination campaign in New Zealand's history.
So do you think the health ministry might have got the ball on getting ready for once vaccines aren't an issue? I understand that some places that are doing mass trainings are getting underway now. They're not got
We've trained 8,000 vaccinators ready to go, and they will continue to be brought on stream as we roll out our vaccine plan, which has always been designed to continually ramp up. And as you will have heard the Minister say, almost 100,000 vaccine doses delivered across 3 days. You can see that ramp up is now occurring.
Our exposure sites still, will they be put back in place to be listed once we are reopening? Because they're not at the moment.
We will be looking at what contact tracing looks like in the New World Order,
And that's just the way it is. We've got to accept that this is the New World Order. We've got to accept that this is the New World Order. We've got to accept that this is the New World Order.
Minister Hazard, how damaging is it for the public's perception of the state government vaccine rollout? The New South Wales Health, your department, accidentally vaccinated about 160 Joey boys. How embarrassing.
What I find more embarrassing, James, is that you would make that sort of question accusation against frontline health staff who work their butts off and who tomorrow will have achieved a million vaccinations into arms. You know what? The school intended it well, there was a mistake, and so what? It's happened. Out of 1 million vaccinations, move on.
I know I'm supposed to say that I respect people's choices and reasons for not getting vaccinated. I don't. I don't understand it. I don't respect it. You don't get to choose to burden our health system because you refuse to follow preventative health measures. You don't get to choose to be a spreader of a deadly virus in our community. And you absolutely do not get to choose to infect Territorians who can't get vaccinated yet, like our young kids.
The most up-to-date information daily. You can trust us as a source of that information. You can also trust the Director General of Health and the Ministry of Health. For that information, do feel free to visit at any time to clarify any rumour you may hear, covid19.govt.nz. Otherwise, dismiss anything else. We will continue to be your single source of truth. We will provide information frequently. We will share everything we can, everything else you see, a grain of salt. And so I really ask people to focus on that.
The most egregious example of that appears to be this text which originated in Malaysia and has become a viral hoax in Australia and in New Zealand. How irresponsible is it the people that are sharing that news of a lockdown imminent in New Zealand?
Yeah, and look, that's the kind of thing that adds to the anxiety that people feel. So I continue to share the message. New Zealanders must prepare, but do not panic, prepare. And when you see those messages, remember that unless you hear it from us, it is not the truth. And I really... Stay local and do not congregate. Don't talk to your neighbours. Please keep to your bubbles. It comes down again to those very simple principles. We know from overseas cases of the Delta variant that it can be spread by people simply walking past one another. So keep those movements outside to the bare minimum, wear a mask, and make sure you keep up that physical distancing.
There will be no removal of masks to consume alcohol outdoors. So you will no longer be able to remove your mask to drink a cocktail at a pop-up beer garden on a footpath as part of a pub crawl. These sorts of passports are designed to do exactly that. They won't be there forever. I can't say, as I stand here right now, how long it'll be on, how long it'll be a feature of things. But, arguably, it won't be a vaccine passport you'll be showing in the first half of next year. It'll be your booster passport to show that you've been to have your third jab and that you've still got the protection that comes from either AstraZeneca, Moderna or Pfizer. At this stage, the greatest incentive is freedom. If you're vaccinated,
you are going to be able to participate in the economy.
And that's why we keep saying, give them a fair go, folks. Go and get vaccinated. If you know, not getting vaccinated is actually self-entitled and indulgent in the extreme in the middle of a pandemic. Go and get vaccinated and be fair to the rest of your community.
World, even if we had 0 cases and we were at 80% double dose, you would still have to respect some rules that exist around vaccinations, around social distancing, around mask wearing. So long as Delta and deadly COVID is around, we will always need to live with a measure of restriction.
Griffith University researchers creating a computer program that can be linked up to security cameras. It identifies human shapes, monitoring how close together they are. Privacy was paramount in this week-long trial, so no one was identified. People are represented as dots on a screen. Their IDs are not recorded. Green means social distancing is being adhered to. Red is a breach. So not only can businesses see when there are breaches, they can also identify spaces within venues where rule breaking takes place, where more signage or physical barriers are needed.
We can start looking at possibility of rearranging the areas or putting different furnitures and different things like that so that it will be possible for them to manage the space a bit better.
Researchers say this technology could have real-world applications not just at airports but at shopping centres and other high-density public spaces.
Please, when you open your front door, just think for a moment, do you really need to go out? And also, and I'm a great online shopper, could you think about whether you need to do online shopping this week? Do you need those people out in the community delivering packages and things? Maybe just leave them for a
Teams, Australian Defence Force and New South Wales Police working together on the back of contact tracing information. Went to a home in southwest Sydney yesterday morning and found a person that should be there, wasn't there. They made a number of inquiries and not that long after, that person returned to the front of the house in a motor vehicle. That person was spoken to by police and ADF, was issued a penalty infringement notice, stated that he'd hopped in his car and went out for some fresh air and hadn't been anywhere else. But the point is that if you are going to behave like this, yesterday over 2,300 houses visited. If you're going to behave like this, if you're going to step outside the health orders, you will be checked on and you will get an infringement notice, and that person will continue to be checked on and make sure that they comply. There was another incident.
From the 13th of September, so in a couple of weeks, in the local government areas of concern, families, a household, will now be able to go out for an hour of recreation on top of the hour of exercise. So a family will be able to sit in a park so long as the adults are vaccinated. In relation to areas outside the local government areas of concern, so for the rest of Greater Sydney and for the regions, 5 people will now be able to gather outdoors so long as all adults are vaccinated.
What the fuck?
Fuck that! This is a commitment by the Wagner family working with the Queensland Government to say to the people of Queensland, we want to keep you safe. And the best way to keep you safe and to keep Delta out of Queensland is to build as quickly as possible a regional quarantine facility. I have listened to Queenslanders. I know how much they support a regional quarantine facility to be in Queensland. They want their community kept safe. That's what they're saying to me, and we are delivering it. This is a race. We are up against a highly infectious Delta variant that's sweeping the world. We don't know what's next. We need to get these facilities up and running, and everybody has seen how successful Howard Springs is.
Checking in on a positive case at Greystanes, police in full PPE as they break the news to Gabriel Chalub. He's off to a health hotel.
I went and got tested for peace of mind. Didn't get a text message that I'm positive or negative, and about a week after, I've got police calling me. So I don't know, maybe it's a mix-up.
Confused but happy to comply, the concreter heads off for an indefinite stay.
All good? Thank you.
Beautiful. You're right.
We'll just
just waiting patiently to be fed. It's like when you shake the bag of the dog treats and the dogs come running. We're all just outside waiting. Just had the cops come around and tell this woman off staying over here as well. Because there was about 5 seconds in between her taking a sip of her cup of tea and she took her face mask down. Cops came around literally on the dot and just pulled her up for it, and she said, well, I'm drinking my tea, and they said, well, not right now, you not put your face mask on. So, it's a bit intense.
Move your bag. Move your bag. Move me to a different fucking place. Close the door. Don't fucking come out again.
Do you know what? I reckon he's been here 2 weeks. This is out of control. This is police quarantine. This is shit. This is totally shit. Poor guy. Fucking hell. People go crazy in hotel quarantine. I relate to it big time. Fuck! You obviously know there's a guy going off his head. Listen, why is he going off his head? Is it because he's supposed to be let out and you guys haven't let him out? Can someone call me? Can a doctor call me? Because I find this really disturbing. Hi, there's a guy going off his head. You obviously know that. There's a guy going off his head upstairs. He's punching walls. Yep, can I ask why is he doing that? Is he supposed to be released from police quarantine? Yeah, but... Jeez, okay, bye. Fuck. Fuck. I think he's my next door neighbour.
Make no mistake, the over-governance and disproportionate measures we see today in order to respond to a virus is a case of martial law masquerading as medical law. Measures like standing 1.5 metres away from someone, for God's sake, mandatory mask wearing, limits on visitors to your home, only allowed to leave for certain reasons. This is North Korean stuff. The worst part in New South Wales and federally, the so-called Liberal Party are in government. A political party built on freedom, which should be rejecting totally dictatorial rulings. Now, we've all seen and used these QR codes, the thing you do on your phone to sign in to a venue. This all says George Orwell 1984 stuff. What does Big Brother do with this data? It was implemented as a means to trace those who may have been in contact with someone infected with coronavirus. Again, a virus so bad, you need to be tested to know whether you've got it. And it was Queensland's Chief Health Officer, Dr. Jeanette Young, who let the cat out of the bag yesterday when she said, we've had very few deaths due to COVID-19. That's correct. So why are governments being so alarmist? When it comes to QR codes and signing in, we're entitled to ask, what is the government doing with this information? Now, I informed you the other week of the revelations coming out of WA. Over there, police have been accessing the state's coronavirus contact tracing app data to assist in criminal investigations. This is despite Premier McGowan assuring West Australians that the data from the sign-in app would only be used in relation to coronavirus. Well, in New South Wales, this Stalinist sign-in nonsense will go further. Citizens will now be forced to check in to the government whenever they go to work or go out to get a takeaway coffee or groceries. This is martial law. Previously, QR codes have only been recommended, but not required in retail settings. Now they'll be mandatory from July 12. Even schools will need QR codes so teachers and visitors can sign in. This is absurd. Prime Minister, this is not Australia. Where are you? Silent as always.
Left Rockefeller Foundation helped produce a shockingly prescient report on 4 possible future scenarios that could play out over the next 15 to 20 years. One of them involved a global pandemic that's remarkably similar to what happened over the last year. During this pandemic, quote, international mobility of both people and goods screeched to a halt. Normally bustling shops and office buildings sat empty for months, devoid of both employees and customers. National leaders around the world imposed airtight rules and restrictions, from the mandatory wearing of face masks to body temp checks. Wow, that does sound familiar. 10, 11 years ago. The report went on to detail how the powers that be would never let that imaginary crisis end. Even after the pandemic faded, this more authoritarian control and oversight of citizens and their activities stuck and even intensified. Citizens willingly gave up some of their sovereignty and their privacy to more paternalistic states in exchange for greater safety and stability. This heightened oversight took many forms: biometric IDs for all citizens, tighter regulations of industries whose stability was deemed vital to national interests.
In terms of construction, we've had a lot to say because we've had to on the basis of case numbers and the amount of infection that's been going on in our construction sector. What I can announce today is that construction workers statewide will need to show evidence to their employer that they have had at least a first dose of a coronavirus vaccine by 11:59 p.m. on the 23rd of September. So basically construction workers have a week to get, if they've not already got a first dose, to go and get a first dose of any of the vaccines that are available.
Attention. This is a police public order warning. You have previously been directed to leave. Leave now or force may be used. No further warnings will be given.
And may the odds be ever in your favor.
Fuck you, cop dog!
No, not all right. How are you meant to calm down when people are doing this?
No, we saw your friend up here earlier on. We've asked him, we've given permission to move on, and he's returned. So.
He lives 500 metres that way.
Yeah, we told
when
him
you guys
to
check that, it's going to be really awkward.
I'm not going to argue with you.
So what? Okay, can I ask what he's been arrested for? Watch me. Watch me what?
Let me come over here and
No, I'm fine here. Thank you. You can explain it here.
What's happened earlier on is we've seen your friend.
You've explained that. It's not necessary.
And we've given you a direction to move on.
I understand that.
Return.
He's not returning his own. He lives a block away.
Yeah, but he has no.
So what do you mean?
He has no reason to be here. He doesn't have a valid reason to be out today. He wasn't wearing a face mask.
Hold on. He has a face mask in his pocket. He was just smoking a cigarette. He just came to get lunch with me. Oh, what do you mean? I've been living here this whole time. What do you mean?
Holly, can you record this, please? You're currently under arrest for breaching the chief health officer.
I live with him. I live 200 metres up the road. We're all going for a walk. What do you mean? I've gone to meet my friends, which I told your friends before.
I literally have food in my hand.
She's gone to get a kebab and we're going for a walk. And the reason I didn't have a mask on because I was having a cigarette. I've got 2 masks in my pocket. Like, what else do you want me to do?
Pretty much.
Do you want to grab your mask out?
Oh, can you get...
What do you mean no? It's all right. Like, if it's because he's not wearing it... Okay, you don't need to touch me though, because if we're meant to be...
You don't need to join in. I'm just going to get this stand right here and don't move in, okay? Listen.
No.
My lawful direction is going to be for you to move on, otherwise you're
Listen,
going to be
I know you don't all want to do this.
We don't.
It's
Don't get
fucking
involved.
horrible
It's
for everybody.
Don't get involved.
What do you mean? This is my mate. I'm standing here. You don't.
I understand your concern.
This is horrible. No, I do. He's my friend. We're fucking walking through the park with food.
Take a couple of steps back.
For what?
For breaching...
For breaching what?
No, let me finish.
Go for it.
I'm trying to process an offender, and you're in the way of the police doing that. Stand there and continue to film. That's great. Happy days.
Sure. Well, excuse me then.
We're filming as well, so...
Yeah, great.
Keep your space. Keep your space.
I've stood here the whole time.
So don't take a step forward. We've asked you to step back. Hey, Broody, where are we going? Corporate processing group. Yeah, go.
Where are you going? Because I'll come. I'm sorry, I don't trust this.
We are a proud liberal democracy. We believe in a world order that favours freedom and that supports the dignity and free expression of all people. We believe in human rights, in gender equality and the rule of law, and we back that up with how we pursue these things in our own country, in our own society, and how we raise our own children. Australia was one of 8 countries only involved in the drafting of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and we continue to strengthen the international human rights system. And we will continue to raise our voice on important issues like the rights of women and girls, the rights of Indigenous peoples, because respecting the rights and freedoms of the individual is intrinsically important. It is fundamental to our values as a people and as a nation. It lifts all societies and nations too, delivering better outcomes through economic inclusion.
So if you get vaccinated, there will be special rules that apply to you.
Women's empowerment, environmental sustainability, rising living standards and so much more. Australians' actions are guided by our belief in the inherent dignity of all people, everywhere, no matter the circumstances. Mr. President, we learned through the pandemic that every moment of challenge requires us to think anew, to engage with each other, to learn as you go. It is an experience understood by many others. And so we will continue to meet this moment with dialogue. Thank you, Mr. President.